Hey everyone. Welcome back to English Daily Talk. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Chris. It's really good to have you here with us again.
If you've been following our C1 series, you already know that this is not just about grammar or vocabulary. It's about life, emotions, and the stories that shape who we are in English.
Exactly. We believe that you don't just learn English, you grow into it. You build a new version of yourself that can think, feel, and dream in another language.
And sometimes, that growth happens in a very specific kind of moment. A moment when a door opens, but you don't feel ready to walk through it.
That's our theme today. The episode is called The Door That Opens When You're Not Ready. It's about opportunities, fear, self-doubt, and how language learning is deeply connected to all of that.
In this episode, we'll start with a true story from my life, then move into reflection, then into a deeper discussion together. And finally, we'll have a language spotlight to highlight some powerful C1 expressions you can steal and use in your own English.
So, if you can, find a comfortable place. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're on a bus, maybe you're doing the dishes. Whatever you're doing, just let your mind slow down and listen.
And as you listen, don't just ask, what new words can I learn? Ask, where is my door? Which part of this story feels like my life?
That's where the real learning happens.
Okay, let's step into the story.
So, Jessica, you told me that this story started in a period of your life when everything felt stuck. Can you take us there?
Yes, it was a few years ago. On paper, my life looked stable. I had a job, a place to live, and a daily routine. But inside, I felt like I was walking in circles. Every day felt like a copy of the day before.
That's such a familiar feeling for many listeners, I think, especially those who have been studying English for years, but feel like they're not moving forward.
Exactly. I would wake up, go to work, come home, scroll on my phone, and go to sleep. I wasn't miserable, but I wasn't excited either. And the worst part was, I had this quiet dream in the back of my mind.
What was the dream?
To work in an international environment, to use English every day, to teach, to speak, to tell stories, and to connect with people from all over the world. But at that time, my English still felt thin.
Thin. That's a powerful way to describe it.
It didn't feel like a strong bridge I could walk on. It felt like glass that might crack if I put too much weight on it. I was afraid that if I tried to use my English in a serious, professional context, everyone would see my mistakes and think, she's not good enough.
And that fear is so common. Many learners think, if I make mistakes, people will judge me permanently.
Exactly. So for a long time, I didn't even try to cross that bridge. I stayed on the safe side, in my familiar routine. But one Sunday afternoon, something changed.
What happened?
I was in a small cafe, sitting by the window. The sky was gray, and the street looked quiet. I was scrolling through job posts on my laptop, more out of curiosity than real intention. And then I saw it.
It being
A job post for an international cultural center. They were looking for someone who could work with foreign students, organize events, and teach language and culture. The whole description was in English.
So, basically, a job that sounded like your dream.
Yes. My heart sped up as I read it. It was like someone had taken my secret dream and turned it into a job listing. And then, of course, my brain immediately tried to protect me.
Let me guess. The brain started shouting, "You're not ready."
Exactly. A little voice said, Jessica, your English isn't good enough. Your CV isn't impressive. Your experience is limited. You'll just embarrass yourself.
That inner voice should get its own job. It's so active.
It's a full-time critic. I stared at the apply button for a long time. My coffee got cold. Time passed. And I had this internal battle. Part of me wanted to close the laptop and forget about it. Another part of me whispered, what if you just try?
So what did you do?
I made a deal with myself. I said, I will apply, but I will not expect anything. I will treat this as practice. That simple decision lowered the pressure. I opened the application form and started typing in English.
How did that feel?
Terrifying and energizing at the same time. My fingers shook a little. I checked every sentence 3 times. I Googled some expressions. I rewrote my answers again and again because I wanted to sound professional, but my English didn't always cooperate.
And yet, you kept going.
Yes. After about an hour, I reached the final page. I looked at everything again, took a deep breath, and clicked submit.
Wow. That little click can feel huge.
It did. And right after I clicked it, fear turned into relief. I thought, okay, it's done. They probably won't choose me, but at least I tried.
And then life went on.
Yes. The next day, I went back to my usual job. The application became a distant memory, like a stone dropped into a lake. One small splash and then silence.
So for a while, nothing happened.
Nothing at all. Weeks passed. Then months. I almost forgot that I had ever applied. I told myself, see? You weren't ready. It's fine. Just continue your life.
That sounds like something many of our listeners might say to themselves after trying once.
Absolutely. But then, one cold afternoon in late October, I was on my way home. The sky was pale, and I remember the feeling of the cold air on my face. I got on a bus, sat down, and as always, I checked my phone.
Oh, I think we all know what's coming.
There it was. An email from the Cultural Center. The subject line was, interview invitation.
How did your heart react?
It jumped, then dropped, then jumped again. My hands went cold. My thoughts exploded. I opened the email and read, we would like to invite you for an interview. The interview will be conducted in English.
The door had opened.
Yes, the door that I never expected to open. And the very first reaction in my mind was not joy. It was panic.
That's so honest. Many people imagine they'll feel pure happiness, but often the first thing we feel is fear.
Exactly. My internal voice screamed, no, 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 I'm not ready. My English is not ready. My confidence is not ready. I actually considered ignoring the email.
Ignoring the email is like closing the door yourself.
Yes. And for a few minutes, I thought about it. I imagined writing back. Thank you, but I can't. But then another thought came. If you say no, your life stays exactly the same.
That's a heavy sentence.
It was. I stared out the bus window, watching the city move past. People walking, cars passing, lights turning on. And I asked myself a simple question. What if I just show up and do my best, even if I'm not ready?
And what answer did you give yourself?
I decided to say yes. Not because I felt confident, but because I was tired of feeling stuck. I wrote back, thank you for the opportunity. I would be happy to join the interview. My hands were still shaking as I pressed send.
That's the second big click in this story.
Yes. The first click sent the application. The second click confirmed the interview. Both times. I didn't feel ready, but I moved anyway.
Let's jump to the day of the interview. What was that morning like for you? Man.
It was intense. I woke up early, even before my alarm. My heart was already beating faster than usual. I went over possible questions in my mind. Why do you want to work here? What experience do you have? What does culture mean to you? And suddenly, every answer felt too simple, too childish, too broken in English.
That inner critic again.
Oh, yes. Very active. I got dressed carefully, chose simple but professional clothes, and practiced introducing myself out loud. I remember standing in front of the mirror saying, "Hi, my name is Jessica," and then stopping because I didn't like how nervous my voice sounded.
But you still left the house?
I did. I walked to the building and saw the glass door. It was tall and reflective. I could see my own nervous face in it. For a second, I imagined turning around and going back home.
That door became a symbol, didn't it?
Completely. It wasn't just a door to a building. It was a door to a different version of my life. I knew that if I walked through it, something would change, even if I didn't get the job.
And that's the thing. Sometimes the experience itself changes us more than the result.
Exactly. I took a deep breath, told myself, just walk in, and pushed the door open.
What did the inside feel like?
Quiet. Bright. There was a receptionist, some posters on the wall in multiple languages, and a waiting area. I sat there, trying not to rehearse every sentence in my head. But of course, I did. I kept thinking, don't forget vocabulary. Don't speak too fast. Don't freeze.
Did they call you quickly?
It felt like hours, but I think it was only about 10 minutes. Then someone came out and said, "Jessica." I stood up. My legs felt like they were made of air. I followed them into a small room with a table and 3 interviewers.
That moment when you sit down and they're all looking at you. That's intense.
Yes. They smiled kindly, but I still felt as if I was on stage. One of them said, "Thank you for coming. Jessica, we'll be conducting the interview in English. Is that okay?"
And inside, you're screaming, "No."
Exactly. Inside, I was thinking, no, it's not okay at all. But out loud, I smiled and said, "Yes, that's fine."
And then it began.
The first few minutes were the hardest. My voice shook. I forgot a simple word and had to describe it instead. I paused longer than I wanted to. But then something surprising happened.
What was that?
My brain started to calm down. My breathing became slower. I realized that they were listening, not judging. They nodded. They smiled. They asked follow-up questions. And with each answer, I felt a tiny bit more grounded.
So your confidence grew during the interview, not before it.
Exactly. That's the key. I didn't wake up that day magically ready. I became more ready while I was already inside the situation. My English wasn't perfect, but it was enough to carry my ideas across the room. And that felt empowering.
How did you feel when it ended?
Exhausted, but proud. I walked out of the building into the cold air and felt this strange mixture of relief and joy. I didn't know if I would get the job, but I knew one thing for sure. I had done something that scared me.
That's a huge victory in itself.
It really is.
So, the big question. Did you get the job?
Not the first time. A few weeks later, they emailed me and said, "Thank you for your time, but we've chosen another candidate."
Ouch.
Yes, it hurt. I cried a little. I felt embarrassed. That inner critic came back and said, "See? I told you. You weren't ready."
But that's not the end of the story, right?
Not at all. Because in the same email, there was one more line. One of the directors had added a personal message. "Your English has strong potential, and your story stayed with us. If you continue improving, I believe we may work together in the future."
Wow, that's powerful.
That one sentence changed everything. It transformed the experience from failure into feedback. It was as if someone had said, "You're not there yet, but you're on the right road."
So what did you do with that sentence?
I used it as fuel. I started studying English more intentionally. I listened to podcasts, read books, wrote in a journal every night in English. I talked to myself in English while cooking or walking. I joined online conversation groups. I wasn't just learning English anymore. I was training for my future.
Training for your future. I like that.
1 year later, almost exactly, I applied again when they opened a new position. This time, my English was stronger, my confidence was steadier, and my understanding of myself was deeper.
And this time,
This time, I got the job.
that's the door you walked through.
Yes. And that job became the starting point of the life I have today. Teaching, storytelling, using English every day, and ultimately sitting here with you, speaking to our listeners.
So the door opened the first time when you weren't ready. You walked in anyway, learned from the experience, and came back stronger.
Exactly. And that's the heart of this episode. So,
Let's slow down and reflect on this for a moment, because I know many people listening are thinking, okay, that's Jessica's story. But what about me?
yes, maybe your door is different. It might not be a job interview. It could be speaking up in a meeting, talking to a foreign colleague, starting a YouTube channel in English, applying to study abroad, or even just joining a conversation group.
The pattern is the same. You see an opportunity. Your heart says, I want this. Your brain says, you're not ready.
And usually, we listen to the brain. We stay where we are. We tell ourselves, I'll wait until my English is better. I'll wait until I feel more confident.
But the hard truth is, that feeling of being fully ready almost never comes.
Exactly. Readiness is often something we discover while we are already inside the challenge. When I walked into that interview room, I wasn't ready. But by going through the experience, I became more ready for the next opportunity.
So, for our listeners, maybe the question is not, am I ready? But am I willing?
I love that. Am I willing to be uncomfortable? Am I willing to sound imperfect? Am I willing to take a risk for the life I want?
And when it comes to English, there's another important point. You don't speak English after you've become confident. You become confident by speaking English.
Yes. Confidence is not a requirement. It's a result. Just like muscles from exercise. You don't say, I'll go to the gym when I'm strong. You become strong by going.
So, if you're listening right now and you've been waiting for the perfect moment to use your English, this might be your sign.
Maybe your door is closer than you think. An email you haven't answered. A course you haven't joined. A message you haven't sent.
The question is, what will you do when that door opens, even if you're not ready? Let's get practical for a moment. If someone is listening and thinking, okay, I want to be brave, but I don't know where to start, what would you suggest as a first step?
I'd say, start with a small door, not a huge one. For example, instead of waiting for a big job interview, start by recording yourself speaking English for 2 minutes every day. You don't have to show anyone. Just practice being heard by your own ears.
I like that. It builds a habit and reduces the fear of your own voice.
Then, once that feels less terrifying, find a slightly bigger door. Join a conversation group, take a speaking class, or arrange a weekly call with a friend who's also learning English.
And eventually, when the bigger doors appear, like job interviews or international opportunities, you'll have more experience stepping into uncertainty.
Exactly. You will have trained your courage muscle.
Another tip I'd add is separate your value from your performance. If you make mistakes in English, that doesn't mean you are stupid or unworthy. It just means you are learning.
Yes, mistakes are evidence that you're moving, not that you're failing. In my interview, I made mistakes. And yet, one of the directors still saw my potential.
And that's often what people notice. Your energy, your attitude, your willingness, more than your grammar.
So don't wait until your English is perfect. Use the English you have today to walk toward the life you want.
Okay, time for our language spotlight. Let's highlight some C1 level expressions that appeared in today's episode, so our listeners can use them too.
Great. The first one is to step into uncertainty. This means to take action without knowing what will happen. For example, accepting the job offer in another country felt like stepping into uncertainty, but I knew I had to try.
The second expression is a threshold moment. A threshold is the line or edge you cross when you enter a new space. So, a threshold moment is a key point in life when things begin to change. For example, the interview was a threshold moment in her career.
The third one is to rise to the occasion. This means to perform better than expected when something important happens. For example, even though he was nervous, he rose to the occasion and gave a great presentation in English.
Number 4, imperfect courage. I really like this one. It describes bravery that exists even when you feel afraid or unsure. For example, she didn't feel ready, but she showed imperfect courage and spoke up in the meeting.
And finally, to underestimate one's abilities. This means to believe that you are less capable than you actually are. For example, many English learners underestimate their abilities and stay silent, even though they could communicate well enough.
We encourage you to write a short paragraph or journal entry using at least 2 of these expressions. Tell your own story about a door that opened when you weren't ready.
And if you really want to push yourself, try telling that story out loud. Record yourself, listen back, and notice how it feels to speak with these new expressions.
As we come to the end of this episode, we want to leave you with one simple thought.
You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. You don't have to wait until your English is flawless. Doors will open in your life, sometimes earlier than you expected.
And when they do, you might hear that old, familiar voice saying, "You're not ready."
But maybe, just maybe, you can answer with a different voice. The one that says, "I'm not ready, but I'm willing."
Willing to step into uncertainty. Willing to make mistakes. Willing to grow into the person you want to become.
Thank you for spending this time with us today. We hope this story and our conversation gave you not just new vocabulary, but new courage.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen again, take notes, and even shadow some of the sentences to practice your pronunciation and rhythm.
And remember, every time you press play on an English episode, every time you say one sentence out loud, every time you choose the uncomfortable option, you are walking toward your own door.
We're proud of you, even if we've never met, because you're still here, still learning, still trying.
Until next time, keep listening, keep speaking, and keep walking through those doors, even when you're not ready.
This was English Daily Talk. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jessica. See you in the next episode.